Hey, Hollow Dwellers, welcome back to Zasta's Hollow, your little corner of the internet where we take deep dives and question everything relating to gaming. And I, your host, Zesta, ready to take a deep dive again in the fine line between genius game design and psychological manipulation. So, let me ask you a question. What is the difference between stealing a car in Los Santos and in your own neighborhood? Isn't it obvious? One is a felony and other one is just another Tuesday night with Grand Theft Auto Online. Well, one involves victim and the other just pixels. But there's a big but. What if the line that we think isn't as clear as we think? Not the line between reality and fiction, the line between in our mind. Have you ever wondered how many digital lives you have taken or how many digital laws you have broken? For most of us, it's a shrug. It's just a game. But what kind of a psychological effect does that just a game takes on us? Well, today we are going to take a deep dive into two of the most controversial topics and most fascinating topics in gaming psychology: moral disengagement and desensitization. We will use GTA Online as our prime case study, but we will also explore games like Elden Ring and Stellar Blade to show how they make you hero of your own violent story. Well, this isn't about how video games changes you or how video games make you violent. The science behind that is quite complicated and quite boring, if I be frank. But what we are doing here is quite personal, like how a video game convinces a good person like you to commit such very bad acts just to make you the hero of your story and make you enjoy it. So strap in because this is going to get interesting. Let's start with moral disengagement. It is a psychological superpower that we all have. It's a way that in which we temporarily turn off our moral compass and do things that we normally won't do. Call it something more like a guilt-free action of something that we hate. If moral disengagement would have been ever a city, its name would be Los Santos. GTA Online is a masterclass on this topic because the entire game loop is centered around you being a criminal and being rewarded for it rather than being punished. Studies have shown that people who play these kind of games are more in tuned or more likely to turn off their moral compasses on demand. So, is it magic? How does it actually work? Well, it's a series of psychological mechanics that game designers, intentionally or not, built into the code. First off, moral justification. This is the story that you tell to yourself to not feel guilty or not feel bad. In games like GTA, narrative always corrects you, always frames you in a way where you are morally justified. Like, you're not in a fight, you're protecting your turf. You're not in a heist, you're stealing that supercar that can set you up for the life. It gives you a purpose, it gives you a reason to live, a moral justification, even if it's twisted. Next, or perhaps most importantly, dehumanization. Think of NPCs in GTA. They aren't people, they're obstacles or props or walking health packs or simply currency. They scream generic repeated sound beats. They tumble into ragdoll physics. They have no family, story, or humanity. By stripping them of any relatable human qualities, game makers incredibly make it easy to view them as not beings, but simply things. Crashing 20 cars to pile up in a freeway is not a tragedy. It's a physics experiment. Finally, there's distortion of consequences. In real world, violence is messy, horrifying even. In GTA, consequences are joke. You get a 2-star wanted level, drive into a pay and spray, and it's all forgotten. Your character gets shot a dozen times and you respawn a block away. Slightly lighter in the wallet, maybe. The game systematically removes the weight, pain, and the trauma associated with your actions. It turns brutality into slapstick routine. When you combine these elements, a justification for the crime, victims you can't empathize with, and consequences that doesn't exist, you get the perfect storm for moral disengagement. The game doesn't allow you to be a criminal, it actively teaches you how to be like one, guilt-free. So, let's say you spent 100 hours being a guilt-free digital criminal. So, what happens next? This is where the second concept comes in: desensitization. Desensitization, exactly what it sounds like. A numbing of your emotional responses after being exposed to the same thing over and over again. The first time you see something shocking, your reaction is strong, but 100th time, not so much, right? In gaming, this means guilt and shock of the game violence fades over time. Remember your first kill in the game? Maybe a bit jarring, but the 10,000th one or the millionth one, it becomes a muscle memory and the action devoid of emotion. Just a click. This isn't just a feeling, it's something that we can see happening in our brains. Studies using fMRI scans have shown that the people who play regularly violent video games have reduced neural responses when shown painful or violent images. Their brains literally react less. It's a form of emotional self preservation. To cope with the constant barrage of simulated violence, the brain turns off the volume down on its own empathy and emotional arousal systems. One fascinating study found that even just 40 minutes of playing violent video games could temporarily desensitize people who weren't even regular gamers. It's a powerful and immediate effect. Now, does that mean you will walk past a real world car crash and feel nothing? Almost certainly not. Your brain is excellent at context. But it does raise a crucial question. If we are training our brains to be numb to violence every week for hours, what is the long term effect? Is there a bleed over effect into our real world? The jury is still out, some studies showing links and others finding none. But this is clear within the magic cycle of gaming. Desensitization is a part of your experience. It allows you to go from being horrified of violence to using it as a tool, a mechanic, a path to victory. GTA is an easy target. It's explicitly about being a criminal, but at the same time, psychology of these mechanics are in play in games where you are the good guy. Let's look at Elden Ring. You are the tarnished on a holy quest to restore the Golden Order. Your goal is noble, and the things you fight, they are horror, grotesque, multi-limbed abominations, assembling undead and corrupted demigods. This isn't dehumanization, it's desensitization. The enemies you fight are monstrous. So, other. That killing them doesn't register as moral question, it's a pest control. The game provides you with ultimate moral justification. You are bringing order to a broken world. The enemies are so far removed from anything recognizably human that you feel no empathy for them. And the consequences? They explode into a puff of runes, the resource you need to get stronger. It's same psychological formula as GTA, but wrapped in the cloak of high fantasy righteousness and purpose. Or take the example of Stellar Blade. You play as Eve, a cybernetically enhanced soldier sent to reclaim Earth from monstrous nativas. The mission is clear: save humanity. The enemies are terrifying, non human creatures. Again, the moral justification is absolute. Your violence is not just accepted, it's heroic. This is a common trait in so many games. The designers carefully construct the world where your violence is not only necessary but just. They use this tool for moral disengagement, not to turn you into a villain, but to ensure you can be the hero without bogging down by the messy morality of constant slaughter. It makes you wonder if it is possible to have an epic action game without some form of moral disengagement. Some games like Lies Up P play with the idea by making moral choices. In this case, lying, a central mechanic with real consequences. But for the most part, action games rely on you not thinking hard about body count you're racking up. Okay, let's address the big scary question. Does engaging in this digital mayhem, this guilt-free violence, turn us into a worse person in real world? The consensus from decades of research is probably not. At least not in the way media portrayed it in the 90s. The link between playing a violent video game and committing real world violence is tenuous at best. Most gamers are perfectly capable of separating in-game morality from real-world ethics. We understand the magic cycle. We know that the rules inside the games are not the rules outside of it. If you spend hundreds of hours practicing moral disengagement, does it become easier to do in some small ways in your real life? If you train your brain to desensitize to pixelated suffering, does it subtly erode your empathy for real suffering? We don't have a definite answer to these questions yet, but it's the heart of this debate. The impact of these games may not be on our actions, but the internal emotional and moral landscape. It's a slow erosion, a subtle shift in perspective that we may not even notice happening. So, where does that leave us? Well, we have seen how games like GTA Online masterfully use psychological mechanics like moral justification and dehumanization to allow us to engage in criminal acts without the burden of guilt. We have seen how repeated exposure can lead to desensitization, numbing our emotional responses to violence within the game world, a phenomenon backed by neurological evidence. And we have seen how heroic games like Elden Ring and Stellar Blade use the very mechanics, the very toolkit to ensure our path to victory is paved with righteous and guilt-free violence. Mind you, this isn't a condemnation. It is a recognition of incredible power of game design. These are not just mindless entertainment. They are sophisticated psychological systems designed to evoke specific feelings, or in this case, a specific lack of feeling. The goal here isn't to make you quit playing, it is to make you play with your eyes open, to make you aware of the psychological dance you are engaged in every time when you pick up your controller. So I want you to leave you with a few questions to kick around in the comments. Where do you draw the line? Is there any action in any game that you simply won't do no matter the reward? Have you ever felt a game genuinely make you guilty, or have you become completely desanitized? Let me know your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any next exploration into the minds behind the games we love. This is Zaster from Zaster Hollow signing out.